to my presentation about Friendship Elementary School's newly created 3D team. My name is Ann Bozovich, and I will be your guide throughout this presentation. First of all, what is a 3D team? This idea is very new for us as an elementary school, so it'll take a little bit of explaining. A 3D team is a group of educators, administrators, parents, students, and community members who all work together to study and make decisions about data that affect our students. Our goal as a Friendship Elementary 3D team, we have come together to create a mission statement, and our goal is that we are a data-driven decision-making team, that's what 3D stands for, and together, being a cohesive group of educators, administrators, parents, students, and community members, we as stakeholders plan to engage in conversations about data and the way it is used to make decisions that affect our district students. We're also concerned with the overall educational culture in our schools, and we believe that by working together in a group where all members' opinions and voices are valued, we can ensure that our students receive the best educational experience possible. So basically, this is a group made up of people from a variety of different backgrounds, all kinds of different stakeholders, who are working to ensure that we are having valuable conversations, meaningful conversations about the data, and using that data to create the best education possible for our students in our schools. Now, since our 3D team is new for our elementary school for this school year, you can see here, this is our schedule that we have come up with. This is just an initial schedule, so everything can certainly be adjusted, but our first meeting will be during our full day in-service on August 23rd. We're going to meet in the afternoon for about an hour in the main office conference room. And we're going to meet every Tuesday morning thereafter for approximately the entire first marking period. Now at the end of the first marking period, our 3D team can discuss whether or not the frequency of these meetings need to be adjusted. We may decide that we need to meet bi-weekly or maybe monthly at that time, but for now we're going to plan on every Tuesday morning for about half an hour to meet in the main office conference room to have our data discussion. Now, these conversations about data, we understand as a group, they are integral to our school's culture. So even though the membership may change, people may come and go from this 3D team, hopefully this group is going to be something that remains part of our school culture for many years into the future. So the life cycle, this is something that we're planning to have long term. And eventually, we are hoping that our conversations can also be integrated into our monthly faculty meeting agenda so that these conversations are heard not only by the people in the committee, but also by all teachers and staff members in our building. Now, what does our 3D team need to get started? We know that this is something brand new for us as a building. So first of all, we need a basic understanding of the data that's being collected about our students. And we also need to understand how that data ties in to not only student performance issues, but also other behavioral issues that are arising in our building. And in order to help build our background knowledge, we are asking that all members of this newly created 3D team will be on the lookout for articles, either in professional publications and magazines, or maybe on websites or blogs that you follow, so that we can share those resources and as a group can enhance our knowledge of data-related issues. Now, what you can see here is the list of people who are on our building's newly created 3D team. And as I mentioned earlier, a 3D team includes people from a variety of different backgrounds. So we've got all the kinds of different stakeholders that are represented on this team. So you can see that we've got our principal. She represents our administration. We've got some technology teachers. The library media specialist is a member of this team as well. And then we've got some different classroom teachers and other special area teachers. For example, a special education representative. We have our math specialist. We have a classroom teacher from not only grades K to 2, but we also have one representing grades 3 to 6 so that these conversations can be carried out throughout all grade levels. We have a school board member who is also a former educator, and she is a grandparent in the school district. Our guidance counselor, our reading specialist, and then also a current 6th grade student and a parent are part of this committee as well. So we really do believe that it's important to hear from all of the stakeholders in our community and in our building. So we've got quite the variety of people involved in our building's brand new 3D team. Now, what we can see here on this slide, this is the data that our team is going to begin by examining. And this is some data that is taken from our 2nd grade reading comprehension test. And you can see that this test, it was looking at reading comprehension 3 different areas, including understanding, vocabulary, and higher order questioning. So you can see how students performed in these 3 areas, and the breakdown is divided between students who scored average, and then also below average and above average. So this is the first set of data that the team is really going to focus on for this school year. And some of the questions that our team wants to know about this data. We want to know, on average, why do our students score higher in the areas of vocabulary and higher order questioning than they do in overall understanding? So we're trying to get to the bottom of that. And we're also wondering about how these reading comprehension scores compare to students' 1st grade reading comprehension scores. So, for example, as a class, have students shown growth? And if so, how much? We know that we want every student to make 1 year's growth, so we want to compare these results and ask some questions about students' level of performance this year as compared with last year. And then also, we are interested in how our reading scores in 2nd grade here at Friendship compared to 2nd grade reading scores in the other 2 elementary buildings that are part of this school district. So are our students performing the same as their peers in other buildings in regard to these tests? Some additional information that our 3D team wants or needs as we continue analyzing this data. We need to find out what month these readings comprehension tests were taken. So we need to figure out if these were fall test scores or if these were mid-year or if they're taken kind of near the end of the year in the spring. And we are also interested in how many total students took these tests. So was this a reflection of our entire 2nd grade class, or was this just one classroom worth of students? Now, looking a little bit more closely at this data, this is the same data that we looked at previously on the chart, our 2nd grade reading comprehension scores, but this is being broken down into male and female results. So again, we've still got our 3 areas of understanding, vocabulary, and higher order questioning, and we can see how students performed, average, below average, or above average, but we've got the gender breakdown as well. So we're going to consider and see if how these variables come into play also. So some questions that our team wants to ask about this gender-specific data. First of all, most importantly, does everyone on the team understand the data as it is presented? We want to make sure that everyone has a clear understanding of what they are looking at and the implications of these scores. And we also want to think about what assumptions our team can make by looking at the data now that the results have been broken down into male and female categories. So how do these scores compare to last year's 2nd grade class scores? For example, was the male and female breakdown similar? So again, we're interested in growth here. We want every child to make 1 year's growth. So we want to see how they perform compared to last year. Now, some additional information that our 3D team wants or needs. Again, were equal numbers of male and female students tested? And does that answer matter in the overall big picture? So we want to know specifically how many students we're talking about here. And are these reading comprehension results similar in other subject areas? So for example, are females outperforming males in science as well as in reading? Some bigger questions that we want to look at. Now, goals and recommendations. First of all, we want to think about what does this data tell us? So does it tell us how our 2nd graders are performing? Yes, but it only shows how they're performing in part of our ELA curriculum. So it does give us a standardized test preview as well. We know that standardized testing begins next year for these students when they enter third grade. So ELA is a part of the standardized tests that students will take. So now our 3D team here, as we look at these second grade scores, we can have a clear understanding of how students are performing now so that we as a team can work to construct clear goals for them as they continue through the rest of second grade and into third grade and begin to prepare for their first standardized tests next year. Now it's important to note that this does not give us results based on the entire ELA curriculum. Remember, these test scores only show 3 areas of our ELA curriculum. All parts will be tested next year, so our 3D team needs to develop additional ways to gather data about areas like fluency and writing that are part of the ELA curriculum but that are not reflected in these tests. Now, some questions relating to the data that we just looked at. First of all, how did this year's second grade students perform on reading comprehension tests as compared to last year's second grade students? So again, remember, we are all about 1 year's growth for each student. So we want to look and see where they were last year and then where they are this year. And then we also want to think about what may have caused any difference in scores. So for example, were there any staff changes in our second grade teachers over the past year? Was a new reading series or a new guided reading curriculum adopted? So what maybe would have brought about some of the changes that we might see in the results from year to year? What do we want from the data? This is an important one. So we wanted to determine as a 3D team which skills second graders are struggling with. Remember, we're all about growth here. So we want to use the information that we gather from this data to create small groups so that students can get additional help with the skills that they need most. So for example, if they are struggling in vocabulary, we can examine the data and determine which skills they're struggling with so that we can make sure that we provide some extra interventions and some extra support. So this data is really going to help inform us as we create some groups. Strategies will foster success. We want to work together as a 3D team using each member's expertise. Remember, this group, our 3D team, it represents a variety of backgrounds. So for example, our library media specialist or our reading specialist, they can pull in some of their specialized resources or reach out to some of their colleagues. Our primary and secondary classroom teachers might be able to provide expertise in their areas. So working together is going to be essential for us as a team as we are able to recognize and bring about change in our building. Gaps in this data, like we mentioned before, remember that testing did not include all components of ELA instruction. So some additional testing is necessary to assess students' performance in other areas like fluency and writing. So there are some gaps. This information does give us a good starting point. What is making other schools successful? 3D teams are new for each of our elementary buildings this year, so we plan as a Friendship Elementary 3D team to reach out to the other 2 buildings and we will all learn from each other. This is new for everyone this school year, so we will trial and error basis here, but we'll be reaching out to other schools to see what's working for them as well. Now, most importantly, what are our school improvement goals? Number 1, we need to do a better job of communicating between grade levels. So as we look at this data, we're going to be discussing and having conversations between first grade and second grade and third grade about this data. This will help the 3D team determine if students' performance has stayed consistent from year to year, and if not, what we can do to improve that. We also need to devote time to practicing understanding, vocabulary, and higher order questioning skills on a daily basis. Sometimes this is hit or miss. We really need to commit to regular practice and review each day if we're going to see improvement as a school. And lastly, we need to provide professional development opportunities for all teachers. We want our students to receive the best education possible. We need to make sure our teachers have the resources they need. That could include attending conferences, bringing in trainers, networking. We need to do whatever we can and then apply the ideas to our own school culture so that we see that growth in the data and that we make sure that each student makes 1 year's growth. For additional information information. I encourage everyone to click on the link here to see my full report that I created, and the link is on this last slide. So thank you very much for your attention.